Self-respect is the foundation of everything, your confidence, your relationships, your success. When you enforce the no combat rule, you're not just cutting someone off. You're making a statement about what you will and will not tolerate in your life. You are saying, I choose me. And that choice is the most powerful thing you will ever make. Think about it. How many times have you bent over backward for someone who didn't appreciate you? How many times did you ignore your gut feeling just to keep the peace? How often did you lower your standards, thinking that if you just tried harder, loved deeper, or waited longer, things would change? But did they? No. Because the truth is, when you compromise your self-respect for someone else, you don't gain love, you lose yourself. And that's a price far too high to pay. The moment you decide to walk away, to stop making excuses, to stop giving endless chances, that's the moment you take your power back. That's the moment you step into your worth. Now, let's be real. At first, it doesn't feel powerful. It feels like withdrawal. Like a part of you is missing. You have this deep, almost unbearable urge to reach out, to check in, to break the silence. And why? Because for so long you've placed their validation above your own self-worth. Because you believed that their response, or lack of it, defined you. But let me tell you something. Your worth was never dependent on them. It was never in their hands. The only reason it felt that way was because you allowed it. You handed them that power little by little. Every time you let disrespect slide, every time you tolerated inconsistency, every time you stayed when you should have walked away. And now, in this silence, something incredible is happening. You're getting that power back. The no Campbell rule is forcing you to sit with yourself, to listen to your own voice instead of theirs, to recognize that your happiness was never meant to be outsourced. It was meant to come from within. This is where self-respect is built, not in moments of comfort, but in moments of discipline. Because self-respect isn't just about saying, I deserve better. It's about proving it through your actions. It's about resisting the temptation to settle for breadcrumbs when you deserve the whole damn feast. It's about knowing that love, real love, doesn't require you to beg, to chase, or to prove your worth. And when you go no contact, you're training yourself to break free from the need for external validation. You're rewiring your brain to understand that someone else's absence does not equate to your inadequacy. Their silence is not a reflection of your value. And most importantly, their inability to see your worth does not mean you are unworthy. At first, they might not notice. Or maybe they do, but they don't react the way you hoped. Maybe they don't reach out. Maybe they don't come running back with an apology. And that's when doubt creeps in. That's when your mind starts playing tricks on you, making you question if you did the right thing. But here's where most people get it wrong. The success of no contact is not measured by how they react. It's measured by how you change. It's measured by the strength you build, the clarity you gain, and the standards you reinforce. The real transformation isn't about getting them back. With every day that passes, you start to realize that your time, energy, and love are valuable. You stop seeing yourself through their eyes and start seeing yourself through your own. You recognize that love is not about losing yourself in someone else. It's about finding someone who complements the person you already are. And that's why self-respect is the key. Because when you truly respect yourself, you won't tolerate mistreatment. You won't accept half-hearted efforts. You won't cling to what's breaking you. Instead, you'll rise above it. You'll walk away from situations that don't serve you, not because it's easy, but because you finally understand that you are worth more. This is the moment where everything changes. The moment where you stop looking for love in places that diminish you. The moment where you start prioritizing your own happiness instead of someone else's, the moment where you step into your full power and realize that the greatest love story you'll ever have is the one you build with yourself. Emotions are powerful. They shape our thoughts, influence our actions, and in many ways define our reality. When you go through a breakup or separation, especially one where feelings are still lingering, your emotions can feel like a storm, chaotic, uncontrollable, and overwhelming. This is where the no contact rule becomes your greatest tool, not just for healing, but for resetting your entire emotional state. It's an emotional detox, a cleansing process that allows you to regain control over your thoughts, your heart, and ultimately your life. At first, the detox feels unbearable. You might feel anxious, restless, even physically uncomfortable. That's because, whether you realize it or not, emotional attachments function like an addiction. The person you were with became a source of emotional highs and lows, and your body got used to the chemical surges of those interactions. Every text, every call, every argument, every moment of reconciliation, it all created patterns in your brain, reinforcing the connection. When you cut contact, your brain enters withdrawal. It craves that dopamine hit, that validation, that sense of connection. It searches for it in familiar places, checking your phone, scrolling through old messages, replaying memories, and even imagining scenarios where they come back, where everything is fixed. But that's not healing, that's just prolonging the attachment. Emotional detox begins when you sit with the discomfort instead of running from it. When you resist the urge to reach out. When you don't give in to the impulse to check their social media. When you stop engaging in imaginary conversations in your head, this is when the true healing starts. It's uncomfortable, but growth always is. In the early stages, the silence feels deafening. The space they once occupied in your life now feels like a void. Your routine is disrupted. The habits you formed around them, texting in the morning, expecting their calls, planning your days with them in mind, are suddenly stripped away, leaving you with nothing but yourself. And that's the whole point. The no contact rule forces you to break free from the emotional dependency that was keeping you stuck. It gives you the space to process the raw emotions without external interference. It allows the reality of the situation to settle in. Because let's be honest, when you're still in contact, when you're still checking in, still hoping, still replaying the past, you're not actually healing. You're just postponing the inevitable. As the detox progresses, something shifts. The initial intensity of the emotions starts to fade. The cravings to reach out become weaker. The moments of sadness are still there, but they no longer consume you. You start seeing things more clearly. What you overlooked, what you tolerated, what you ignored just to keep the connection alive. Without their constant presence clouding your judgment, you begin to separate fact from fantasy. You stop romanticizing the past and start seeing it for what it really was. Maybe you realize they weren't as present as you thought. Maybe you see how one-sided the effort actually was. Maybe you acknowledge for the first time that love should never feel this draining. This emotional detox isn't just about forgetting them. It's about rediscovering yourself. It's about peeling away the layers of attachment and seeing who you are beneath it all. Because somewhere along the way, you lost pieces of yourself. Maybe you abandoned certain hobbies, drifted from friends, neglected your own needs. Maybe you started defining yourself in relation to them, measuring your worth by how they treated you. Now, without their influence, you have the opportunity to rebuild, to fill the empty spaces with things that nourish you instead of depleting you, to reconnect with the parts of yourself that you set aside, to create new routines, new habits, new sources of joy that have nothing to do with them. The most powerful part of this detox is the moment you realize that peace feels better than chasing after someone who wasn't meant for you. That solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom. That your happiness was never supposed to be in someone else's hands to begin with. This is where the transformation begins. Not in the moments of distraction, not in trying to numb the pain, but in allowing yourself to fully experience it and come out stronger on the other side. Power in relationships is often an unspoken force. It determines who leads and who follows, who chases and who is chased, who sets the terms and who adjusts to them. Whether you realize it or not, every connection has an energy dynamic, and when a breakup happens, that balance is thrown into chaos. If you've been the one left behind, the one still holding on, the one waiting for closure, then the power was never in your hands. It was in theirs. This is where the no contact rule changes everything. It flips the script. It shifts the power dynamic in ways you may not immediately see, but trust me, they will feel it. In the beginning, they assume you'll reach out. If they were the one to walk away, they expect you to plead, to check in, to keep that door open for them. If the relationship was toxic or one-sided, they've gotten used to you being available no matter how they treated you. Even if they had feelings for you, they believed on some level that they could come back whenever they wanted. That security, the knowledge that you were always there, is what gave them power. But when you go no contact, you remove that safety net, you disrupt their sense of control. Suddenly, they're not the center of your world. Suddenly, the texts stop, the late night calls don't come. The emotional reassurance they got from you is gone. And that absence, it stings. Even if they don't show it right away, even if they act unbothered, they notice. At first, they might try to convince themselves that you're just playing a game. They tell themselves, they'll reach out soon. They wait, expecting the familiar pattern to resume. But days go by, then weeks, and that's when the uncertainty sets in. See, people don't truly appreciate something until they feel its loss. They don't reflect on what they had until they face the possibility of never having it again. And when you remove yourself, when you stop giving them access to your energy, that's exactly what happens. The absence you create forces them to confront a reality they weren't prepared for, a reality where you are no longer an option. This shift in power isn't just about making them miss you. It's deeper than that. It's about repositioning yourself as someone who is not easily available, someone who values themselves enough to walk away. And that change isn't just something they feel, it's something you start believing in yourself. As time passes, the person who once held the power starts questioning things. They wonder if you've moved on. They wonder if they made the right decision. They wonder why you're not reacting the way they expected. This uncertainty does something crucial. It places them in the position of the one seeking validation. Maybe they test the waters. They send a casual message, something vague to see if you'll bite. Maybe they watch your stories more, hoping you'll notice. Maybe they try to reconnect in subtle ways, not with a grand apology, but with small gestures that say, I still want to know if I matter. And here's the most important part. The real shift in power happens when you don't respond the way you used to. When you no longer jump at breadcrumbs. When their attempts to re-enter your life no longer shake your foundation. Because the truth is, power isn't about who reaches out first or who waits the longest. It's about who is in control of their emotions. No contact isn't just about making someone miss you. It's about breaking the cycle where your worth is dependent on their attention. It's about teaching yourself that you don't need someone who wasn't willing to fully choose you. It's about proving that you are capable of standing on your own, not because you're waiting for them, but because you've realized you never needed them in the first place. When that realization sinks in, the power dynamic doesn't just shift, it completely transforms. Pain is a catalyst. It shakes us, it breaks us, and if we allow it, it transforms us. When you first go no contact, it doesn't feel like transformation, it feels like suffering. It feels like loss, like uncertainty, like a battle between your emotions and your logic. But beneath that struggle, beneath the surface level pain, something deeper is happening. Growth is happening. Every major transformation in life begins with discomfort. Think about it. Muscles don't grow without resistance. Diamonds aren't formed without pressure. And people don't evolve without struggle. The no hummer rule isn't just about healing from a breakup. It's about reshaping who you are at your core. It's about breaking old patterns, reprogramming your mind, and emerging stronger than you ever were before. At first, the withdrawal feels unbearable. You're used to their presence. Maybe they were part of your daily routine, someone you texted in the morning, someone who filled the silence in your evenings. Without them, the world feels emptier. But that emptiness is actually space. Space for you to rebuild, to refill your life with things that are meaningful, to redefine your identity outside of the relationship. Transformation begins the moment you stop looking for external validation and start focusing inward. This is where the real breakthrough happens. When you stop asking, do they miss me, and start asking, what do I need to heal? When you stop replaying past conversations and start creating new goals. When you stop trying to control their actions and start controlling your own emotions. One of the biggest lessons that come from no contact is realizing how much power you gave away. Maybe you sacrificed parts of yourself to keep the relationship going. Maybe you silenced your needs to avoid conflict. Maybe you placed their happiness above your own, believing that love meant self-sacrifice. But now, in the silence, you start to see the truth. You were never meant to lose yourself in someone else. And that realization, that's the moment everything changes. At first, the pain feels like an anchor pulling you down, but as time passes, as you start investing in yourself, you realize that the same pain that once weighed you down is now fueling your growth. You start to feel lighter. You laugh again, not because someone else made you happy, but because you created happiness for yourself. You rediscover passions, reconnect with friends, rebuild your confidence, and piece by piece, you become someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who no longer settles for anything less than they deserve. The true transformation isn't just about getting over them. It's about becoming a version of yourself that would never even entertain that kind of relationship again. You stop chasing people who are inconsistent. You stop tolerating behavior that drains you. You stop seeking closure from others because you've already found it within yourself. There's a moment in this journey where you wake up and realize you're no longer hurting the way you used to. You realize that you haven't checked their social media in days, maybe weeks. You realize that the thought of them doesn't trigger the same emotional reaction anymore. That's when you know the breakthrough has happened. Because transformation isn't about forgetting them, it's about remembering who you are. It's about stepping into a future where you are in control, where you attract relationships that match your worth, where you no longer beg for love, but instead command respect. And the best part, the version of you that emerges from this process is one you'll be proud of.